And I had no idea that Germans ever came that close to the United States coast. So I sort of, what I call, in the back of my head, I have a stew pot. I just throw things back there, let them simmer. I mean, sometimes for years, until I find the right thing to vehicle for it. And then, more recently, I was visiting a friend's house in Memphis. She's my college roommate. She's from New Orleans. And her sister, who still lives in New Orleans, had sent her a bottle tree for her yard in Memphis. And I did not know what a bottle tree was. Who knows what or has ever seen a bottle tree? Anybody here? Okay. And the origins, I knew, you know, it was this beautiful thing, and I had no idea what it was. So she told me about it. And basically, the idea of it came from slaves from the Congo when they were brought over to the American South, and they interpreted it by putting brightly colored bottles upside down onto the branches of trees to trap evil spirits before the evil spirits could get into the house. And I thought, oh, that is like such a cool thing. That has got to go somewhere. So I threw it back in the stew pot and let it simmer a little bit. And then the third thing that sort of clinched it for me, I'm a subscriber to Charleston Magazine, go figure. It's a great magazine, whether you live in Charleston or not. I don't even get Atlanta Magazine because all it is plastic surgery ads. I don't know if they're trying to tell me something, but Charleston Magazine is just chock full of great articles and pictures. And you know, it's this big magazine, and the issue was the cover was like Miss Folly Beach 1940 or something like that, you know, and she's with her Coca-Cola and her, you know, bathing suit. And a huge article with these great pictures of Folly Beach from the 30s, 40s, and 50s. And I was just mesmerized, like, what a cool place it must have been. It had the longest pier in the world. It jutted out way into the Atlantic, and at the end was this ginormous pavilion where they would have a band set up. Glenn Miller played there, Tommy Dorsey played there, like all the big bands of the era played on the Folly Beach Pier, and they would have all these people come and dance. There was like 100,000 people there on New Year's Eve 1939, which is, you know, if you can picture it, I mean, Folly Beach there was more land before Hugo, but it's a lot smaller now, but it was much bigger back then, but 100,000 people, if you can imagine. And they say that's where the South Carolina state dance, the shag, was invented on the Folly Beach Pier. So you can imagine, here's this wonderful atmosphere of dancing and bands, and then World War II breaks out, and there's the Naval Base and the Air Force and the Coast Guard, and they're all in that area. So you can just imagine the heightened emotional state that was going on in the Low Country back then. So, you know, these three things are just sort of bubbling, and oh gosh, I've got a deadline, I gotta pull things out and think of how these things are gonna mesh, and I'm gonna write the next book. And I knew I didn't want to write an historical book, because I think my readers understand all of my books have some kind of historical context to them, but I don't think they were ready for me to write an historical book. So I wanted to sort of have and I didn't want to tell another story through scrapbooks or letters, or I wanted them to really be in that time period. So what I did, I created, in 2009, I decided to write the two stories of two war widows. Emmy's in 2009, and Kat and her sister Maggie are in 1942. So I alternate chapters, the 1942, 2009, 1942, 2009. And the thing that connects these two women is that they never meet, but they own the same bookstore on Folly Beach, just 60 years apart. And Emmy in 2009 discovers a box of books that had belonged to Maggie in 1942. And in the margins of some of the books are like sort of cryptic love notes between a man and a woman. So you know, it opens. One thing, it diverts her grief. Her husband has died in Afghanistan, and it diverts her grief, and she sort of becomes obsessed with finding out the story of these two people. And the thing that connects the two stories is that in 1942, Lulu is the 9-year-old sister of Maggie. She's being raised by Maggie. Her parents have died. And so the story in 1942 is told from Lulu's 9-year-old point of view. And then you see Lulu again in her late 70s in 2009. And when you first meet her, it's like you don't really like her until you understand that she's been holding on to a secret for over 60 years, and you find out what that is at the end. But she makes and she sells these bottle trees from the backyard of the Folly Finds, which is the fictional bookstore in Folly Beach, and these beautiful artistic creations, not done, you know, with trees anymore, but metal and just beautiful things. And she has this huge business, you know, all over the country where she makes, designs them, and sells them. And that's the only reason why Emmy doesn't immediately dismiss her outright, because first of all, she sees that somebody who can create such beauty with such passion has something else inside of them than this brusque, you know, exterior. And two, she can't help but wonder what evil spirits Lulu was trying to keep out. So it's this wonderful, it's, you know, the characters change and grow and learn, and then you have this wonderful little mystery that sort of evolves, and it's just very cool. And I still write the way I wrote my first book. I don't know how my books are going to end. So when I was getting to the end, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to find out what happens. I love the way that the book turned out. It was just so much fun, and I loved doing the research. I mean, that wasn't hard. And yeah, we did have to rent a beach house for a week in Folly Beach last summer, which was really difficult, but you know, we managed. So it was a tax write-off and all that. So that's Folly Beach, and that's my last book. And again, in November I have Falling Home, which is a rewrite. So don't go to eBay and buy any of my backlist, because hopefully I will also get the sequel. The rights to that should be reverted back to me shortly. Hopefully Penguin will pick that up as well. So Falling Home and After the Rain. Don't go buy on eBay. They will be released. Falling Home in November. And then next May, I have a book. I have no idea what that is. All I know is it's going to be set in New Orleans. See, I stay in the South, and I love writing with a Gothic voice sometimes, and I just think New Orleans just begs for that kind of, you know, Victoria Holt sort of, you know, sort of tone. So I'm looking forward to that. And then next November will be the third book in the tragedy series. So tentatively titled The Girl on Montague Street, or the Turret on Montague Street, but that could change. So no memorize that yet, but it will definitely be November of 2011. And if any of that changes, I'll put it on my Facebook and on my